I'd like to call to order this September 21st meeting of the Monroe County Redevelopment Commission. Jeff, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Martin,
Present.
Commissioner McCarty,
Present.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Present.
Commissioner Shelton,
Present.
Commissioner Tucker.
Present.
I do not see Commissioner Cassidy yet.
Not the other way
Okay.
next time.
Our first item on the agenda is a residential TIF update. If you'll recall, we've been working on this notion of a residential TIF in the area north of the North Park TIF, or part of the North Park TIF in an area to the north. And we have now met with members of the commissioners and the school board. And we have some more meetings we have to do with neighborhood, I understand.
I believe so, although I don't know if there is a homeowners association in the area. So I haven't seen that come through from planning yet, but I'll double check
Okay.
that. I guess the couple of updates, we talked about getting updates from Steve Kreider on both the road project and on the residential TIF aspect of this. We have not been able to schedule that, or we've been able to schedule that meeting, but we've not been able to have it. I'm meeting with Steve next Tuesday at 1 p.m.
Okay.
We're going to meet with Paul Satterley, who is our highway engineer, to talk about the Hunter Valley roadway. It's pretty far along in the design process. There are a couple of requirements that we're going to go back and forth with at that meeting, with the sidewalks and fencings and things like that. So that's pretty far along. We're going to have that meeting, and at that meeting, I'm going to nail him down for a meeting to schedule with the planning department to talk about that North Park PUD and the changes we need to make in order to facilitate what needs to go forward.
Okay.
I'll let the RDC know when that meeting's scheduled. So if anybody wants to come to that, if you want to come next Tuesday at 1 p.m.
Tuesday?
Tuesday. I think that meeting will be in the legal department conference room.
Where?
The legal department conference room. I think that's going to be a much more technical road construction issue type meeting.
Will that be on CATS recorded?
No, that's just
Okay.
going to be basically staff with Steve to talk about requirements and what can be done if.
Right. If we have a quorum of members from the commission present, then we're going to have to notice it.
Yeah, so if a quorum wants to attend that, let me know.
I will
Tomorrow.
not be able to make that, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have. three
I will not
commissioners
come.
Notice it as a meeting. Okay.
So let me know.
Well, what's Steve Shelton's situation? Would he want to come to that?
No, I will not.
Okay, good. I know you've been following it. That's why I thought we'd ask. Or I
Thank
would.
you.
Okay. You want to send out an email to us tomorrow morning and let us know that we need to contact you by end of business Thursday?
Yes.
Okay.
I may just send that before I leave tonight.
Okay. You said you couldn't, you're going to check on a neighborhood association possibility there.
Yeah.
Would it make sense for us to try and schedule something with the people that live there, even if there's not an association?
I think it would make sense. I also think that maybe if we had that meeting somewhat closer to the area,
Yes.
that would make sense as well. I'm trying to think what's in that area, and maybe I haven't driven past it in a while, but I don't know how much of the hospital, their ambulance center and all that has been built out at this
Right.
point, but that would be a pretty good location because it's immediately adjacent.
Right, I know they were quite active when there was a proposal there to put that apartment complex in the North Park area. And that piece of property would be included in this TIF, I'm assuming.
Yes.
So I think they would have an interest in it. So, okay, let's see if there's an actual association, and then we'll think about how we might be able to accommodate a meeting with them.
We'll see if we can, I'll see if there's any locations there that would make sense.
Okay.
I might suggest to look at maybe the next couple of months, see
Yeah.
what, maybe at this time, or maybe
Right.
have this meeting at that location, and then have the participation maybe at 5:30 or something like that, so people
Yeah.
can make it
Okay.
after
We could do
work.
something like that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else on the residential TIF? Is that it?
I think that is it. I have the form 90% complete. I've got to get some spreadsheets, and I'm going to submit that to the state. Essentially, it's a form where they look at the number of new residential housing they have. They want the parcel list from the assessor or auditor's office.
Right.
So I'm pulling that together. I'm going to go ahead and get that filed. I might call them to see if I file it today, how long that'll last. Or if I have to refile next year, if it
Right.
goes that long. So,
Okay. All right. Next item on our agenda is the Vernal Pike connection update. We have a stub. We have a stub from each end. Where are we at on things?
I put this on there because we received a court order where we have to go through condemnation with one of the parcels, and the appraisal, the court ordered appraisal came in a couple million more than what we anticipated the cost of that to be. Process wise, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what the end of the day
Right.
will pay. It's not an order that that's what it's worth. It's just what the appraisals come in. But it does have some bearing in that if we put with the court that as a deposit or down payment with the, if we would file that with the court, then we would have access to that property, and we could have people start doing things.
Right.
We're not currently accessing the property, but that was an additional 2 million was more than we were comfortable with, even contemplating doing anything like that. In the packet that I printed off for you, and I don't know if you have this, and I think I emailed the order, but I also printed off the cash flow from our last annual report. Don't know if Rich have, or if he went ahead and printed it off. In 2024, we would have, we were estimating to have about 1.4 million. Now, clearly, if that costs $2 million more, that would not be good for that cash flow. And so I think we should start thinking about looking at what a bonding would do for that project, time, length. I think I guess when we started looking at the Profile Parkway and this project together, we had looked at maybe combining those two bonds, two projects into one bond, but given the timing, this was a few years later, it didn't seem like a very good idea to pay interest on money that you weren't spending at that point in time. So we anticipated the potential of having to do a bond here. I think it would actually make our cash flow look better. But we'll have to run those numbers and figure it out. Little hesitancy on my part because the general market right now for bidding projects and things like that are going to be likely above what we estimated anyway. So I kind of think that we've got to get our hands around, is our current estimate accurate? And if not, how are we going to handle those things? And Lisa's at a conference this week, and so I'm going to get with her
That's right.
to worry about those things. But I guess I'm looking at it from our packet, it's the estimated cash flow with the school payment. I think this group has always indicated that that payment was important. And so we'll make sure in any of the bonding analysis and what we look at first
Good.
looks at it with that payment included.
Mhm.
So that's the big
This is the problem we get into when we don't negotiate the land before we make the commitment to do the project.
Well, I think we wanted to get a commitment on these parcels, but I think early indicators were that was just not going to be,
Easy. I know, right.
not going to be forthcoming.
It's-
It seemed like they were willing to in the beginning, but
Sometimes you just got to move forward.
Well, and I think that's the blessing and the curse of with a federal aid project. It's the federal
Right.
aid project is a blessing because you get federal aid to do the
Mhm.
project. The curse is that we're kind of working on their
Right,
fiscal timelines.
right.
Right.
Okay. All right. Okay, we also in our packet have the minutes for the previous meeting,
I read them the time
August
I got them.
17th.
Pardon?
These are the minutes for the meeting of August 17th.
Yeah,
When Randy showed up for the first time, we had the presentation from RBB School Corporation. And we had a discussion with the superintendent and board president of the Monroe County Community School Corporation. And we received support from the school corporation. And we approved claims. And then we had some information from staff on a couple of projects, Smith Woodward and the Ford and Pike. I have appreciated the way they have gone about dealing with that roundabout and making sure that traffic can get through that intersection while they're doing all that work. I'm sure there are some people on North Smith Pike that aren't as happy because it's all closed, but certainly we've been able to get north-south traffic through there, and that's been a real boon to the county. Otherwise, we'd be funneling everybody onto the interstate and off the interstate the whole time.
right.
Please note that Randy Cassidy is now shown up.
I move approval of the minutes from the August 17th meeting.
And I second.
Right, we had a motion for approval of the minutes and a second. You want to call the roll, please?
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes,
Commissioner Shelton,
Yes,
Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
Motion is approved 5-0.
Next, we have on our agenda claims. There are two claims for this, for approval. One is from Beam Longus and Neff, which has to do with the inspection on the Curry Woodyard Road Smith Pike project in the amount of $35,417.55. And you have in your packet the detail of that claim. The other one is for Richland Beam Blossom Community Schools for our support of their STEM effort in the amount of $143,935.64. And that is also detailed in your packet in terms of how the calculation is made based upon the TIF revenue and our agreement with them. You'll see that calculation on the first page of the agreement.
Jeff, I have only part of the packet.
Yeah.
I typically don't print off all the claims because they typically are,
I don't have to.
so, but I do have a copy if you guys want to.
So the total of the claims is $179,353.19.
2 times a year.
Are there any questions?
I do have a question on the detail, because I did go through that earlier today. And I think it was page 17. There's a reimbursement. And I, I don't know how this is processed, so forgive my ignorance on that. But it was labeled hotel receipt. And it came from it was listed from a hotel and paid in cash, for reimbursement fine as part of the project by the engineer on the project. Also had a receipt from Home to Suites. I'm just curious as to, because it didn't look official. That's my question. I'm not trying to point fingers. I just have an honest question. How is that treated? Because it appears that I was not able to find the establishment online.
I would have to look at that
Okay.
and get with our highway.
Yeah, these are usually done as rates, time rates for the personnel plus out-of-pocket expenses.
Mhm. Yeah,
So the
Yeah.
hotel would probably be out-of-pocket expense,
yeah,
depending
Yeah.
upon whether or not they had. I know that when inspectors come and stay for a full day and they're doing it another day, that they often stay in town rather than drive back home, especially if they're from someplace distant in the state.
right, right. And that absolutely. And they did get a good rate at Home Suites, I believe. But my question is on that particular one, I was not able to find that establishment online. So it could be, totally innocuous. I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
That's fair.
That is a
So-
fair question.
Yes, it is.
It was $100 a
That's part
night.
of our responsibility.
Yeah,
Well, we've got it several times. There are two claims from the hotel, I believe. One for 400 and one for.
Right.
Well, there's another Hilton hotel. So there's.
yeah,
The hotel fees are mounting up pretty heavy here.
yeah.
That's why I saw it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was just
They add
curious
up.
because, I know how that works. And certainly,
Sure.
I think, like I said, I think the room rate was fine from the Hilton, but everything else added on top of it, that's just how the hotel business is right now. But the one in particular, there's no logo on that invoice. Yes. Yes.
I found it.
And also, just a procedural question, I guess, on the detail from BLN. Is this a transparency issue where they list all the work that they have been accumulating through the state with our projects mixed in? Is that a typical practice or?
I think that your questions are great. And I think I'm afraid Lisa Ridge, who is the
Yeah.
expert
Yeah.
in the claims administration for a lot of this, is not here.
Sure. Okay.
So,
And I know this, usually she goes through each one of them before she admits a total, mostly because I think the auditor's office requires that too.
Right.
So, if I remember correctly, but it's been a while since I dealt with that kind of thing.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
you're
that's-
right.
Well, could I suggest that I make a motion to approve the STEM reimbursement for RBB of $143,935.64. And we wait on the others till next month or when Lisa can explain this.
That makes
I would
sense.
second.
So your motion is to approve the first, but not the second?
Yes, approve the RBB
The
payment.
second, not the first.
Yeah, the second, not the first.
Second, not the first. Okay, sorry.
He's approving the 35,000. That's what the motion is, right, Jeff? I mean, Steve?
I'm approving I'm making a motion to approve $143,935.64.
Okay.
Well, I'm wondering if they haven't already been paid.
Right.
Often things come to us after they have been done.
I think you're probably right. We probably need to review that as well.
Let me see if there's a summary voucher for this anywhere. So Lisa dated this 21st for that one. I don't see for the first one, I'm not seeing anything transmitted from Lisa's office as a voucher. There's no voucher here. It's just a bunch of invoices to us.
We should have a voucher that accumulates the invoices, right?
Well,
Something like
There
that.
should be a voucher that is signed by Lisa.
Uh-huh. Well, I don't
And
have
that
any of
may
them, but-
mean it hasn't gone through any claims process at this point.
Yeah, so we don't know that Highway has signed off on these.
Right.
We have a voucher for the RB and RBB, but we don't have a voucher for the other. And usually we do.
I think it's the ability to go ahead. Motion.
Yeah, we can go ahead and move forward on so I might, Jim, can I amend your motion to say that lacking a approval voucher from Highway Department, we're going to hold the beam longus and Neff until we receive that approval payable voucher from the Highway Department?
Yes,
Okay,
That sounds good.
is that acceptable with the second?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve a claim from Richland Bean Blossom Community Schools for $143,935.64. And we are delaying action on the Beam Longus and Neff claim for $35,417.55 because we do not have a voucher from the Highway Department certifying that the invoices are correct and need to be paid. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
yes,
Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
Motion is approved 5-0.
Okay, and you'll notify Lisa that we're missing a piece.
I will.
Dot those i's and cross those t's.
Mhm.
Okay. Do we have any public comment? Anybody in the public out there signed in? No one here. I don't see anybody else registered out there. Okay. Staff comment. Jeff, you got anything?
Well, I think, and I can't recall if I brought this to you guys yet or not, but we've received on, I think, 2 different occasions now. One prior to the annexation, and we were going to have it on the agenda for this board, but then the fire department asked us to pull it based upon annexation, a request for some support to help pave and put up some garage doors at their new or at their facility in the West Side TIF. I think they're making that request again. Lisa is kind of looking at the costs and things like that. I think the total cost was under $50,000. So I don't think we're talking about a great deal of capital. I would just say that, let's let Lisa look at that. I guess my determination is that since we bought most of the fire trucks, helping them preserve those fire trucks is important. The real question comes down is this maintenance or not? Because we can't use redevelopment commission money for maintenance of things. And so that's kind of the question that's still lingering on those things. Well, it's a real question, right? If it was a new building and we're replacing and we're just doing it, then it's a capital replacement. So, I mean, it could very well be capital. It's just, it may not. I think then the driveway, I think, in my mind, is also that are we maintaining their driveway or are we redoing their driveway? And I think those are two different definitions when you look at the NDOT and state regulations. We can't maintain things even though we could buy them. I mean, is a new door a replacement of the door or is it maintaining the building? I mean, that's the kind of questions we'll look at.
Yeah,
Sure.
are you going to get a request for determination from the state on that? How are you going to approach that?
I think I'm letting Lisa kind of look at them. I think the paving, I think she will have a pretty good understanding as to whether that meets the definition of maintenance or not. I mean, that's what they do, is drive roads and things like that. I think the garage door, I think I just need to kind of, there's a case from the state that dealt with maintenance of a park that they use redevelopment commission's funds. That'll probably be pretty instructive on whether this is maintenance or capital.
Did we make any investment in that structure originally?
Not that I'm aware of.
To look at that. As time moves on, asphalt.
Well, I need to, I don't think it'll take real long to get that final look at whether, I mean, to me, the harder question is the one Lisa has to answer. And like, does this meet their definition of maintenance or not? Because
Right.
that's always been an area where there has been some changes and some confusions coming from the state, but I think they've got it pretty well definitional now. And so once that occurs, and I think that's the bulk of the cost.
Okay. Look at it, come back to us. But right now, this is being looked at to make sure it provides fire protection and protection of the investments.
Yeah. And
I think we'll come back next month.
I think it could. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it'll take me that long to figure out.
Right,
the end
we'll
of
make
these.
a formal request from them.
Yeah, it would. And I think they would need to come in and explain the project to you guys and things like that.
Right,
Let you know.
Does that then need to go to the commissioners as well?
I don't think so, because I think it's already, we have a budget. So I don't think it would have to go to the commissioners, because I don't think it changes the plan, because our plan already included the ability to do support for the fire district.
Right.
Or the fire.
And those
Station.
fire protection into the west side. too.
Yeah.
And they're actually located within the boundaries of the TIF district, so.
Okay. No other staff reports? that I can See, because there's no other
No other
staff here.
staff. That's easy.
There's another comment. I wanted to bring up something that kind of occurred to me while I was going through some other stuff. I had asked Jeff to look into our current electronic attendance policy and to make sure that we were complying with that, because we created that policy at a time when there was an emergency due to the pandemic, and now we're kind of almost officially out of that pandemic, and we're still going to look like we're operating under that policy. So we wanted to go visit and make sure that we were doing things according to the policy. As soon as the bells get done ringing. Our policy is derived from a state statute.
Right.
And as far as we know, there has been no change in the state statute at this point. That may change next year, we don't know. But part of the provisions in the state statute have to do with the number of meetings that someone can attend virtually and the conditions under which they can be relieved of the obligations for that attendance. And this specifically had to do with Jim, who has essentially a medical situation which is covered by this particular provision. But there is another provision that has to do with what people can do when they are virtually attending versus what they can do when they are physically here. And for our purposes, Jeff has looked at this, and it appears that the only thing which a virtual attendee cannot do, that those of us that are here can do, is vote on budget items. And we're not quite sure what budget items are in the context of the redevelopment commission. But to be on the safe side, we're going to ask that anybody who's virtually attending not vote on a budget issue. Jeff did go back and make sure that when we did anything that was like a budget oriented, we had plenty of votes from people in attendance to cover the situation. But we want to make sure that we're abiding by that policy which has been established by the commission. And we will then, if the state statute changes, we will revisit the situation at that point in time. But for now, that's the only thing we saw where there was any kind of problem. If anybody has any questions, there is a document that's available that we adopted on the 19th day of May in 2021, covering how we deal with this. Okay, that is all that I had. Jeff, you want to make a new signatory page for this that we can sign, scratching out the one and copying, or do you want me to just rip off this one?
I just have the one for claims. I don't have the other one.
Okay, do any other
I think we
commissioners have a comment? Randy, anything from you? Colin?
Just, I've driven through the construction area on the roundabout, and it was mentioned earlier that, yeah, they're doing a great job of moving
Yeah.
traffic through safely, and it's moving right along. So, yeah, this is going to be a great thing. So,
Yeah. I think it's really going to move things along in that area, traffic wise.
yes, yeah.
Harris, anything from you?
Nothing for me right now. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Tucker?
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Jim, anything from you?
Well, I have also driven through that intersection or that construction area several times, and it is supposed to be done here in the next couple of weeks. And I think they've done a great job. I mean, kudos to Lisa and her crew. And something to think about is, do we want to have some kind of ceremony when that thing is done, which maybe we would do?
I think we'll wait on the ceremony until they get the other part of the dog bone created.
What?
There are two circles that are being done there. So it'll be sometime next year, I think, before it's all done.
Oh, really? Okay.
At that point, we certainly would want to have some kind of ceremony, similar to the one that we did.
Right. Yeah.
Parkway.
Profile Parkway.
Yeah.
Mostly so that it
It'll
helps make the
press.
public aware of it, that it's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it for me. Thanks.
Okay, anybody got anything else? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second?
We have a motion second to adjourn. We are adjourned.